All right, you just listened to my first interview of the season with Justin Rodgers of Detroit News. Thank him again for coming on. Like I said, tonight is the first night of the 2018-2019 season, and we look forward to watching our guys out there on the field. Um, I'm a little more optimistic than Justin is about the record. I see the Lions going 10-6 in the regular season and making a playoff run. We might be in one or two playoff games this year. Not quite Super Bowl, but we're gonna be better than what we was in the preseason. Preseason is not a measuring stick, as we all know, fans. Myself looked at the 2008 preseason 4-0, and we were looked at. We're gonna go and do some things, and we ended up 0-16. Every season's not gonna be like that, but I really don't think that we're going to have a bad season. But like you said, it's going to be a coin flip. Some of those games are going to be one possession games, maybe a turnover may decide it. So anything can happen between to make the team go between 7-9 and 10-6. Um, One of the things that I did not cover earlier was the contract extension of one of my favorite Lions, Quandre Diggs. I think he really earned it. His play was exceptional this year. Justin touched on it during our interview. He is a really good talent, um, and he's a really down to earth individual. I think he deserves everything he's going to have coming to him. One of the things that we did not touch on was the running game. I'm looking forward to seeing Kerryon Johnson and um, the big guy LeGarrette Blount work this season. Those guys are going to add a dimension that we haven't had in the last few years. It's going to be interesting how we use Amir Abdullah. Is he going to remain on the team? Are they going to trade him? We never know what's going to happen with that going forward. Theo Riddick, is he back from his injury? How's his wrists and his knees are going to hold up for the season? Is he going to be that change of pace guy who can, as a game breaker, who can change the complexity of a game with a one big play? We all know what we have in Matthew Stafford. It's going to be interesting to see the receivers this year. Kenny Galladay, will he come into his own? I think he's going to have a good season. Is that going to mean less touches for Golden Tate? Marvin Jones had a really good breakout season. So are they going to rely on him? He's a little younger. And so is Kenny Galladay. And you add power to the mix. What is that going to mean for Golden Tate going forward? Looking at it, he hasn't been offered a contract extension that we know of that's going to be keep him in Detroit. Will he be gone next season? Um, he's a yak king in the NFL. He led the league the last few years in yards after catch. So with him departing, that's going to leave a hole. How do we fill that? Is it going to be Powell? Is it going to be Galladay? Is it going to be T.J. Jones? Are we going to draft another receiver? Those are things to look at going forward in the season. I think we're going to be good personnel wise, but I know that individuals were looking at the Khalil Mack as a piece we wanted to add, but the Lions doesn't have that much cap space. To sign a guy who makes more than your quarterback, that's probably the reason why he did not get re-signed in Oakland. Um, you just can't have that amount of money going towards two players. That's another reason why the Lions didn't sign and Ndamukong Suh. They couldn't have that much money in two players and stay relevant. You lose a lot of pieces like that because you can't re-sign the guys on your team, or you can't attract good free agents with that amount of money on your cap space tied up in two players. Looking at Chicago, that made a difference for them, and it made a good sense for them because their quarterback's on a rookie contract, so they don't have to pay him right now. So they can pay him down the line, and they don't really have a lot of big salaries on that team right now. So they could afford to trade for Khalil Mack and pay that extension. With the Lions, we can trade for draft picks, but we couldn't pay him long term. So it didn't just make sense for the Lions right now. Um, looking at the game tonight, um, it's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles adjust and how the Falcons adjust coming in. They have changes on their team, coaching changes, personnel changes. Some people think Atlanta's going to be a better offense with their new wide receiver. Some people think that the Eagles are going to take a step back. But that's not line related. But it is the first day of the season. Looking at the Lions, I'm interested to see the changes, especially on the defensive line. I think that one of the focal points that we had was the linebacker position. We went from the smaller linebackers to more big, kind of outside linebacker defensive end hybrids. So it's going to be interesting to see what Patricia and those guys have in store for the opposing offenses going forward. So I can take this time to thank everyone for listening to this podcast. Kind of like I said in the beginning, slide me some ideas on the page for this podcast, topics I can cover, I can research. Looking at doing some big things with this podcast and help me going forward in my career. So thank you all for listening. Again, shout out to the administrators over at the Die Hard fan page for allowing me to post this podcast on the page, and I look forward to recording some more podcasts throughout the season. Like I said, some summaries, game summaries, and some updates for the news and notes for the Detroit Lions. So again, this is your man Kurt Steele signing off, and like I always say, what up, doe, and one pride.